Hey everybody, Brian Trow coming to you with your fly fishing forecast. The date for today is Monday, March the 13th. So we had a little snow, a little wintry weather over the last 24 hours. We had a little bit down here on the valley floor, but if you're heading up into the mountains today, especially over like 2,000 feet, just kind of be prepared. There's plenty of snow up high, and that'll be melting off today and probably into tomorrow a little bit. So that could affect your travel if you're trying to drive to places like the North River Delayed Harvest, places up high where they don't plow. Check with the national park to see if Skyline Drive is open this morning. And then it looks like we're gonna get pretty cold here for the next few days. In fact, tomorrow it's looking like high of only like 37 degrees and lots of wind. So we're going back into the ice box for a few days. Looks like some warmer weather and rain Thursday, Friday, and then back to cold again on Saturday. So typical March, you know, the battle between winter and summer happens in March, and we get a lot of wind. We get 60 degrees one day, snow the next day. So it's pretty normal. The good news is water levels are good. And when we have 2 or 3 nice warm days back to back, the fishing has been really good. Some of the first major bug hatches have already begun, and we're starting to kind of get more consistency to them. Obviously, each day, the days are getting a little bit longer, and that really helps with the sun angle starting to get higher and higher. The sunlight penetrates down into the bottom of those creeks, gets those nymphs moving around. And particularly up in the Blue Ridge to our east, there's been some pretty good hatches so far of quills, and there's been some pretty good hatches of caddis, like our early season caddis. And then of course on these overcast kind of coolish days, we're still getting really good blueing olive hatches. So down here in the valley floor, those hatches don't always translate. Some people think, oh, if they're already hatching up in the mountains, they should be all over these spring creeks. But remember, a lot of our spring creeks here in the valley are silty by nature. Some have extra silt and sediment because of land use and farming, but really spring creeks by their very nature, streams like Mossy Creek, that don't have a mountain source. They don't come from the mountains miles away. They just bubble up out of the ground. They have a hard time flushing themselves or flooding, which is why they're always gonna have a lot of silt and sediment. Because of that, they don't have the same numbers of the same types of bug and benthic life we have up in the freestone streams. So you're not going to go to a place like Mossy Creek and see just like a massive hatch of quills. There'll be other types of bugs that you'll see. And so we'll talk about that more as we go through the spring. But really your best spot in the western part of Virginia for early season dry fly fishing is up in the mountains, particularly on the Blue Ridge. And then as things begin to warm up, we'll start seeing those bugs a week or 2 later, really showing up in good numbers to our west and the Alleghenies, all right, at higher elevations and where it's a little bit colder. So we'll keep you all up to speed on the bugs. For those of you tying dry flies, you know, you want to stay 2 or 3 steps and weeks ahead. Remember, as we move into April, which is not too far off, mayflies are going to get bigger and bigger. We're going to start to get March browns showing up, and so now you're moving from size 16s to size 14s and size 12s even. So we've got Cahills and Hendricksons on the horizon. So kind of be looking ahead, tying ahead, getting your big wolf patterns ready too. Just as always good to have attractor patterns on you. On these colder days, if you're fishing the next 2 or 3 days, I would treat the fishing just like you would in the dead of winter, okay? We're gonna have major cold fronts, lots of wind, and that's gonna stifle some of that dry fly action that we've had. So a little further down in the valley floor here, we've had a couple of really good days out on the larger rivers on the Shenandoah. So some of those big fish are starting to eat a little bit better. But we still have a ways to go when it comes to water temperatures and everything else. So we've been out mostly doing a little musky scouting and musky fishing and bumping into some of these big largemouth and these big smallmouth along the way. One thing to remember about the musky is April is their month here in the Commonwealth to spawn. And so we pretty much leave them alone the month of April. So we've got maybe another week or two of fishing, and then those fish are not going to be interested in biting. They're going to be off doing other things. So I got a little window left for the muskie, then we'll give them a break, and we'll pick back up on the muskie later on in May. All right, so a lot of changes, weather's changing, the warm water species are starting to show signs of life, and as well as the mayflies. So it's all good news, lots of good things to come. We have, thanks everybody for coming last week to our F3T. It was a lot of fun, the movies were great, the crowd was great, and keeping with having fun. We've got a lot of fun planned this week on Thursday night in Harrisonburg at Pale Fire Brewing. They make great beer, and it's a really cool venue for us to do the iron fly. And so for those of you who love fly fishing, like hanging out with the fly fishing community, not knowing how to tie is not an excuse to not come. You don't have to be a tyer. It's really fun for everybody to enjoy. Even people who don't fly fish at all love watching this really fun, interactive get together that we have once a year. So it's kind of like the Iron Chef, you know, we throw a bunch of different twists and turns at you at the vise, but anybody can compete. You can step up and compete an event or two and then sit back and meet some fishermen and enjoy a beer. And so that'll be this Thursday night at Pale Fire in Harrisonburg, Virginia. So all the info will be going out in the email and whatnot, but we hope to see a bunch of you all there. And as always, if you need some information on places to go, you need some new streams to fish this spring, give us a call, email us, or stop in and we'll help you out. See you all next week.